When we think about a constitution, we ought to think more comprehensively. When Aristotle writes of the Athenian constitution, he includes discussions of theater, he discusses battles that are fought. In other words, that a constitution is more comprehensive than simply the way that we order our government institutions. My interest is in exploring the way that the American Constitution in some ways establishes a way of life that is identifiably distinct from the way that peoples in other nations tend to live their lives. Why is it that in America there's been in particular an attraction to living in a set of suburban arrangements rather than congregating in cities in the way that one sees, for example, in Europe? This tendency to want to find spaces where we can withdraw and have a kind of sense of our own autonomy. This is a very American tendency. Also, in the 1950s, there was a radical change away from the front porch, and the building style adopted was that of the back patio. What this signaled was more than merely a change in style, but a change in how we viewed ourselves and our relationships to each other. Now, this is a decision that was made that one might regard as private, but which has rather extensive public implications. One of the great ironies, it seems to me, of the American experience is that the very achievement of our liberty, here perhaps represented in the flight to the suburbs, right, and the capacity of every person to have their own yard, also reflects a tendency toward a kind of individualism, one that poses a threat to democracy's vitality, to the capacity of democracy to find the civic resources by which it can flourish. So it's in these sorts of areas, how we live our lives, how we educate our children, where and how we build, where we find the practical effects of a set of ideas, that if we're only looking at the things that we tend to think of as political, we'll tend to overlook the ways that those have been shaped by philosophical assumptions. One of the things that I encourage among my graduate students is that in addition to a deep understanding of political ideas, that they develop ways of thinking about how those ideas connect to political practice, the ways in which these philosophical ideas have consequences for our practical lives as citizens together. Political philosophy is an essential field of study if you want to understand our condition as human beings who attempt to live well and to flourish together.